Football is
Football is America. If you don't like it, you can kiss your candy ass at the moment in time. I don't give a damn. Oh my God. You love this.
30-27. Chiefs win. Chiefs win 30-20.
Rick, this game was absolutely incredible. And I remember immediately after the Packer game, I made a promise to everybody that this next game will not be a blowout. And boy, was it not a blowout. It was an amazing football game. I'm talking about the Detroit Lions hosting a playoff game for the first time in over 30 years.
What?
And then in comes this Rams team with Sean McVay. Oh, yeah, and this guy named Matthew Stafford, the old quarterback for the Detroit Lions, and there's booze and there's playoff energy, and Jared Goff coming out of the tunnel, still in the building, the crowd chanting, Goff, Jared Goff, Jared. And he says, after he sat down with like the local news the next day, and he was like, no, it was a special moment. I've never felt so loved before, ever.
Yeah.
And if you're a Rams fan, you're like, oh, up yours, dude. Like, we loved you over here. But not in this way. So the Lions, they waited their whole life. Some people, that's why the thumbnail is a person my age, and they're holding a sign that says, I've waited my entire life for this, literally. And I thought that was cool for the thumbnail, because I feel so much joy for the Lions and their fans, and I'm so happy for them. That this was just so nice to see the older generations, our generation, the kids were kind of like, oh, you have no idea, dude.
Yeah.
But for all those other groups of people, like, this was such a special moment for Dan Campbell to take over this job and go 1-15, and then the next season, he didn't even start winning till around week 8 because of a 65-yard field goal, because Minnesota getting down the field in just these crazy ways where it's almost like Friday Night Lights. Is there any curses? Like, what is it? Like, there's this anti-Lions barrier we can't get over. And here we go into a new season, and the Lions' expectations were to get to the playoffs. They're 13-5 now. Dan Campbell, he's just kind of, he's stuck with it. He's never changed. That he is who he is. It's all about grit, toughness, hard work, loving your teammates, playing for each other, brotherhood. It's all of that. And
biting kneecaps.
Like, this team has probably the most heart and soul of any team, in my opinion. Just the way they play for each other, the way they cry in the field when they win. Like, this just means so much to the team. And a lot of people are saying maybe they could go to the Super Bowl, maybe not, but let's talk about the game. So the Matthew Stafford falls a little bit short in this one. Everybody was super loud, so definitely a point goes to the Lions home crowd for making it tough. But there was a 21-17 game with 4:02 left in the first half. Stafford completed 25 of 36 for 367 yards, and he shook off a ton of brutal hits that we weren't even sure if he was going to be able to come back in the game. Puka Nacua had a historic night, continuing a historic season. He had 181 no, that's just receiving yards, and he had a scoring touchdown. The Rams outgained Detroit by nearly 100 yards, and they battled to keep it close all the way to the end. But the final score really does accurately display what we saw on the field. It was very close the whole time. And the Lions, I think they had 4 minutes, and they just kept getting first downs, and the Rams couldn't get off the field. This was, for a lot of people, the sneakiest team in the NFC. They looked at the Rams and they said, this is a team that could go to the Super Bowl. And if you think that about the Lions as well, then the Rams proved everyone right. We weren't wrong about the Rams, and we're probably not wrong about the Lions. The Rams were peaking at the right time, but the Lions are just a little bit better this year. What's your takeaway from this game? And do you think anything, any feelings about either of these teams has changed after this game? Maybe trust Goff a little bit more, something like that.
Yeah, and one of the things that I talked about prior to this game during our predictions, right, was Goff has to take care of the ball, because as soon as Goff loses the ball to a turnover, an interception, a fumble, it's like he crumbles. And he was able to do that. He passed for 22 times, 22 completions, got the 277 yards and a score. Didn't make any hasty decisions in the pocket, was pretty much calm. So credit to the offensive line, really, for the Lions. Really calm throughout the entire game. And, when you got a guy like Jahmyr Gibbs and David Montgomery there on your team to kind of take that pressure off you, and you got an Amon-Ra St. Brown and a rookie tight end star in Laporta there, like it becomes a little bit easier when these guys are having good games, when they're able to get that extra yards after the catch, right? So I definitely trust Goff a little bit more. He didn't throw any picks. That was the big thing. He didn't just lose the ball. Now it becomes they go up against the Bucs next week, which they had a great defensive showing, and we'll get into that game a little bit later. But you're right about the whole, it just seems that the Detroit Lions love this that much more. You look across that offense, Jared Goff basically told, in social media that he was getting traded. The way he was traded was rough. You look at Amon-Ra St. Brown. He can name every single wide receiver that was taken before him in the draft, and he went in and had 110 yards receiving in this game. Look at Aiden Hutchinson, Michigan born and bred, went to Michigan, grew up a Lions fan, graduated from Michigan, got drafted by the Detroit Lions, and look where he's at now, man. Look across. Go ahead.
I was going to say, do you think that's a little self-absorbent, or a little bit of not being happy for the other people that because you hear guys like Aaron Rodgers know the quarterbacks and know the players, is there a world where you're happy for those players, or do you think that's the competitive advantage that these guys you just need to come up with something to piss you off every single day?
Well, I mean, you look at what Jordan did. Michael Jordan, you saw, right? The Last Dance documentary. He had to make everything personal so he could be playing at his best. And that to me is yeah, you can look at it as a self-absorbed thing, as dude, are you serious? You need this guy to shake your hand the wrong way to have to be pissed off against him. You could look at it that way for sure. But those are the guys that don't need external motivation. They have all the motivation they need to win this game and to look great doing it on the inside. And some people, struggle with that. They can't motivate themselves. So, I think for me, you take something like that, like what Jared Goff went through, and you want to beat the fuck out of the Rams because of the way they handled that. This is a quarterback who took the Rams to the Super Bowl. The questions arose, though, during that time. Can he win them a Super Bowl? He took them there. He didn't win them the Super Bowl. Can he be the guy? They decided it wasn't. They decided it was Stafford. And what did Stafford do his first year? Took them to a Super Bowl win. They were right about that. But now Goff is hey, remember when you guys traded me away to the Lions without, the respect of, talking to me about it first? I'm going to beat you. And he did. He ended up beating his former team in the Rams.
He was great last year too. A lot of those losses, he had the Lions with 40 points.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's one of the reasons I think that, for me, I was they gotta draft the quarterback. I don't know if Jared Goff's it, but the way he'd been playing, the record he had, the touchdown interception ratio he had for an entire season at week 5 of this year, it was insane. And it was oh, okay, they're going with him because of this reason. They're going with him because he is actually very productive and very consistent with his play at quarterback. So I think all those storylines were great for the Lions. And while I don't think, the Bucs or the Bills or any other teams we're going to talk about or have talked about are going to be no, we feel this win much better than the Lions. Come on. Yeah, it's the Lions. It's Detroit. 30 years. They haven't won a playoff game since 92 or hosted one since a year after that or something like that. So crazy. You got to give it to them. And the Rams, give them credit for what they were able to do to come in Detroit and make this a close game. You were 100% right in saying this score between these two teams tells the story 100%, unlike all the other wild card games. The Rams were able to come in here. They put up some points early. Their defense was able to hold that Lions offense to only 3 points in the entire second half. But that Lions defense was better. They held them to only 2 field goals in the entire second half for the Rams. So this tale really came down to the defenses in that second half, because the offense was, for the most part, pretty absent in that second half from both the Rams and the Lions. But like I said, the Lions defense was a little bit better, and they were able to come away with the win. But Amon-Ra and Jared Goff in that last drive to get that first down, they got that first down on that 11-yard catch by Amon-Ra St. Brown. That's all they needed. Then they could just knee it from there, and the Lions are moving on in the divisional round for the first time since 1992, man. What a story.
Yeah. Do you think, isn't it kind of weird that the Lions had Matthew Stafford, another number 1 overall draft pick, for over 10 years, and he never, maybe he won a playoff? No, he never won a playoff game.
No, he went to a playoff game, did not win it.
He went to one and didn't win one, but nobody ever talked about getting rid of Stafford. But Jared Goff, let's say he loses next week, maybe people are talking. It's just funny how there's certain quarterbacks that were oh no, if you take him away, we suck. And then once you build a good team around him, it's okay, there's no excuses for you not winning a Super Bowl. But Stafford had Calvin Johnson, Megatron, and maybe that's all they had. But I don't know. It's just funny how we pick and choose which quarterbacks we put the blame on when they lose. And then if you had a different quarterback in, look at the Cowboys with Tony Romo, couldn't win a playoff game. And then Dak had a good preseason, and then he becomes the starter. But it's the same thing with Dak. And people are now Dak's got to go. And it's weird to me. I'm really noticing it this postseason more than the other years. I don't know if it's because a lot of controversial quarterbacks are in the playoffs right now, like Tua and Dak. But I think the Lions are a very good example on what happens when you invest in Jared Goff, when you invest in another running back, when you go get David Montgomery, when you just keep investing in the team, and they'll get there. This Detroit getting to this point started 3 years ago. This is a process. And a lot of fans can't understand nor respect the process. It takes a long time to build a culture more than anything. You can have the football team, but if you don't have the culture, you're going to end up like the Steelers right now, or like the Cowboys. So the last thing I wanted to say about Dan Campbell, he coached a great game. They played a great game. The offensive line is my MVP. I'll tell you right now, Jared Goff enjoyed the comfort of quality pass protection the entire night. He completed all 21 passes attempted when not under pressure for 266 yards and a touchdown. Wow. The second most non-pressured passes without an incompletion in a game since 2018. The offensive line was great. They didn't have not one time in this game did I think, Jared Goff looks a little bit uncomfortable. Not one time. And then on NFL Research, it says in a true battle of sharp passers, Jared Goff had 121.8 passer rating and Stafford had 120.9. Had the second and third highest passer ratings, respectively, in the playoffs versus a team that a player played for previously. Only the Eagles' Rodney Peete, 143.3 passer rating in the 95 wildcard game against Detroit was higher, which is weird, right? So Stafford had the second highest passer rating ever playing his former team in the playoffs. And the number one guy was also somebody that was playing against Detroit. So it's just like a fun fact. But yeah, this was a great game. We definitely got our money's worth.
Yeah.
This was the one that wasn't on Peacock.
Thank God,
the Dolphins game on Peacock, and
thank God. That was so annoying. And you talked about the offensive line being your MVP. For me, I got to go with Laporta, man. Laporta, a guy who just a few days ago was nursing an injury that everybody thought was going to be he's not in the playoffs anymore. He's not going to come in. He had a ridiculous cast on or something, but only 3 catches, 14 yards, but he scored the touchdown, man. And he came in and he looked really good doing it. So credit to Laporta for showing that Detroit toughness, wrapping up his knee, wrapping up whatever it was, coming out, scoring that touchdown and really just showing that Detroit toughness. And even we were both like, holy shit, he's going to play. You know what I mean? So I got to give my MVP to him.